Screenplay. In this video, we are going to see about screenplay. The script for a film generally containing all the scenes, dialogue, action, and sometimes including camera position and angles, at which time it is also called a shooting script. The screenplay should be considered a blueprint for the final film since many changes takes place during shooting. A point-by-point synopsis or summary of a plot, normally fewer than 500 words, that gives a brief account of the story and characters and is judged as a possible source for a future film. If the outline is accepted and optioned, a treatment or even screenplay will follow. A stage in the writing of a film that comes immediately after the outline and right before the first version of the screenplay itself. The treatment, either written in simple descriptive prose or in outline form, generally employs the present tense to give a full account of the story with all the characters, actions, and scenes, but often without dialogue and normally without individual shots. This early version of the film, normally from 10 to 40 pages, shows how the writer would treat the story in a screenplay. TV commercials. In this video, we are going to see about TV commercials. Films which are shot exclusively to sell a product of any nature. They are hair oil to costumes, to durables, to anything under the sky, to the large number of audiences using television as a medium is called as TV commercials. The duration of the commercials will consist of minimum of 10 seconds to maximum of 60 seconds. Advertising agencies are getting more creative in order to get user attention. The following content contains inspirational examples of TV commercials. Since television first became available to people, they have been able to relax in the comfort of their own homes to watch a variety of programs, sitcoms, soap operas, sports, made-for-TV movies, variety shows, dramas, talk shows, games shows, reality shows. The one thing all of these programs have in common is commercials. They use creative concepts to grab user attention, all while telling us why they should buy their car insurance, apply for their credit cards, or watch their upcoming movies. Some commercials actually give them some comedy relief to go with their head cold or heartburn. Documentaries and features. In this video, we are going to see about documentaries and features. The term documentary was derived from the French word documentaire, which means travelogue. A film that deals with fact and not fiction, that tries to convey reality as it is instead of some fictional version of reality. These films are concentrated with actual people, places, events, or activities. The very act of putting reality on film must change that reality to some degree, must select from it and give it form, shape, and documentaries can be discussed in terms of the degree of control that the filmmaker imposes upon the reality they records. What is true of all these films, however, is that they try to give us a feeling, a sense, a perspective of the reality that actually exists, even if some filmmakers might use obvious cinematic techniques to achieve this, or even preconceived scenes and narrative lines. Some documentaries have the purpose of persuading the audience to a particular view about some aspect of reality, as for example, Per Lorentz New Deal films of the 1930s, when introduction distorts reality. However, the work must be considered a propaganda film. Other documentaries seek basically to show and explore, to educate the public about certain social situations or governmental agencies. The term feature in silent film days derived from films that featured certain stars, stories, or action It came to mean works that were the major or featured attraction in the showing of a series of films. Features. Such films were feature attractions because of their greater length of 5 reels or more, with each reel running about 14 minutes. In the days of sound double features, the feature film generally was an A production with a higher budget, better known performers, and a greater running time than the second feature. Today, the term feature film applies to any full-length fictional film that plays at a commercial theatre. Such films run anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours, though longer films are not uncommon. For example, on October 17th in movie theaters, The Book of Life, picture shown in the figure, features the voices of Diego Luna, Zoe Saldana, and Channing Tatum, among other actors. From treatment to screenplay to shooting script. In this video, we are going to see about from treatment to screenplay to shooting script. A screenplay can be considered as a guide or an outline for a movie. It can also be called as a blueprint or a diagram. A series of images, scenes, and sequences that are strung together with dialogue and description like pearls on a strand or like a collection of ideas. In a novel, the action takes place inside the character's head within the mindscape of dramatic action. In a play, the action or storyline occurs on stage under the proscenium arch, and the audience becomes the fourth wall, eavesdropping on the lives of the characters. They talk about their hopes and dreams, past and future plans, discuss their needs and desires, fears and conflicts. In this case, the action of the play occurs within the language of dramatic action. It is spoken in words. Movies are different. Film is a visual medium that dramatizes a basic storyline. A screenplay is a story told with pictures in dialogue and description and placed within the context of dramatic structure. A screenplay is like a noun. It's about a person or persons in a place or places doing his or her or their thing. All screenplays execute this basic premise. The person is the character and doing his or her thing is the action. If a screenplay is a story told with pictures, then, like all stories, it will also have a common structure, a beginning, a middle, and an end, though not always in that order. This basic linear structure is the form of the screenplay. It holds all the elements of the storyline in place. To understand the dynamics of structure, struct means to build or to put something together like a building or a car. But there is another definition of the word structure, and that is the relationship between the parts and the whole. A story is a whole, and the parts that make it, the action, characters, scenes, sequences, acts 1, 2, 3, incidents, episodes, events, music, locations, etc. are what make up the story. It is a whole. Structure is what holds the story in place. It is the relationship between these parts that holds the entire screenplay, the whole, together. It is the paradigm of dramatic structure. The paradigm of table, for example, is a top with 4 legs. The process involved in writing the screenplay. The step-by-step process of arriving at the final stage in pre-production before going to the production process is shooting script, and this process on the whole is called as treatment. The first step to writing the basic story is to get an idea. Where do we get the idea from? From day-to-day activities, traveling in trains, bus, etc., reading newspapers and magazines, talking to friends, parents, relatives, watching TV, and so on. To get an idea, people should always keep their eyes and ears open. From any one of the above said ways, an idea might strike in their head. For getting an idea, what should do basically is to observe keenly what is happening around them. How to develop an idea. For all the above said methods, people can get the basic idea. It strikes in their mind like a flash. All they have to do now is to make a note of it. Note the ideas in a scribbling pad. Doing like this can give the flexibility of selecting best ideas to write stories. Writing the basic story. The basic story should consist of the following three elements: opening, middle, end. Opening. The opening should always have to introduce the main character and also establish the location. Middle. The middle portion of the story should consist the conflict or confrontation between the protagonist and antagonist of the story. End. The end portion should consist the resolution of the conflict arising between protagonist and antagonist, which was created in the middle of the story. The three qualities of a successful scriptwriter are observation, retention, projection. Character. In this video, we are going to see about character. Any one of the various fictional people that appear in a film, including heroes, heroines, villains, supporting roles, and minor and bit parts. Unlike novels, in which characters can be described internally as well as externally, film normally limits the portrayal of character to speech, appearance, and action. At the same time, film characters are seen in relation to the physical reality that surrounds them. Creating character or character study. External behavior. What is the appearance of the character? What is the age of the character? What is the walking style of the character? Any particular mannerism the character has? What is the hairstyle of the character? What is the costume of the character? What is the social status of the character? What is the occupation of the character? Internal behavior. Name of the character. What is the normal reaction of the character? What is the educational background of the character? What are good and bad qualities of the character? How does the character behave with other fellow characters? Plot development. In this video, we are going to see about plot development. Plot is a narrative and traditionally literary term defined as the events that make up a story, particularly as they relate to one another in a pattern or in a sequence as they relate to each other through cause and effect, how the reader views the story, or simply by coincidence. Hence, though there may be one general story of Cinderella, there may be many treatments with different events and plot structures. M. Forster, in aspects of the novel, makes the well-known argument that plot is distinct from story in that its events are linked together in a causal relationship, while there is no necessary relationship between the events of a story. For example, events in the traditional picaresque novel are sometimes unrelated except for the presence of the same hero, a fact equally true of many modern novels and films. There are also those works in which events are related by a single location, historical development, or theme. In complex narrative works, action is a result of character and character a result of action, and what the character thinks and feels or how they develops is as much an action as any external event. The two types of plot are sujet, fabula. The most outstanding example of this is the French director Alain Resnais's Hiroshima Mon Amour, 1959. 3-act plot structure. Stories have beginnings, middles, and ends. Act 1 is the beginning, Act 2 the middle, and Act 3 the end. Screenplays run from 100 to 120 pages. The number of pages represents the number of minutes the movie runs. 100 pages represent about 100 minutes of screen time, 100 pages equal to 110 minutes and 120 pages take 120 minutes. Some pages have a lot of action, which may take 5 minutes of screen time. Other pages may be all dialogue, which may take 20 seconds of screen time. It all averages out. Break the screenplay into the 3 acts. Act 1 is roughly 1/4 of the screenplay. Act 1 is 30 pages, Act 2 is 60 pages, Act 3 is 30 pages. Act 1 runs between pages 1 and 30. Act 2 runs between pages 31 and 90. Act 3 runs between pages 91 and 120. The inciting incident takes place around pages 10 to 15. Plot point 1 takes place around pages 20 to 25. The midpoint takes place on page 60. Plot point 2 takes place around pages 75 to 80. And the climax takes place around pages 110 to 115. Introduction to plot and structure. Plot. Unfolding of the story is called plot. Theme. Subject of the story is called theme. Inciting incident. A big incident that takes place and is the cause of the whole situation at the very beginning of the movie. Turning points. They are also called plot points. A good plot has got many turning points to keep the reader interested. Such turning points grab holds of the action and the characters and spin them into a new direction. A bomb or an introduction to a new character can be these plot points. Midpoint. The midpoint is a turning point halfway through the movie. Inciting incident, midpoint, and plot points 1 and 2 are all nothing but turning points coming under various labels. Climax. The biggest scene in the movie where all loose ends are tied up and where the main character fights his final battle. Resolution. The end of the movie, the last scene where the cowboy hero rides into the sunset. Plot can also be called conflict. Man against man, man against society or society against man, man against nature or nature against man, man against himself. Examples movies names shown below. Man against man, man against society, society against man, man against nature, nature against man, the man against himself. Screenplay writing. In this video, we are going to see about screenplay writing. Before going to the step-by-step process of writing a screenplay, people should first understand about the 3 terms such as shot, scene, sequence. Shot. The term shot is sometimes defined as the single uninterrupted operation of camera that results in a continuous action we see on the screen. A shot might itself include a changing focus or a movement of the camera so long as it appears to be the result of a single take of the camera. Shot are generally categorized by the apparent distance from camera to subject, the angle of the camera in viewing the subject, the movement of the camera during a shot, and the number of characters within the frame. The terms for the apparent distance between camera and subject are defined in the following manner. The extreme long shot, ELS, XLS, which shows the landscape or a specific setting from a considerable distance and is sometimes used as an establishing shot to set the location or background for the following scene. The long shot, that is LS, which shows characters somewhat distant, especially in the context of their physical environment, and is also sometimes used as an establishing shot. The medium long shot, that is MLS, which presents characters closer to the camera from the knees up, but still as a part of the setting, and is also called a 3/4 or American shot. The medium shot MS, which shows the character or characters from the waist up and is also sometimes called a mid shot. The medium close-up, that is MCU, or medium close shot, MCS, which shows the character from the midpoint of the chest to the top of the head. The close-up CU, which presents the full head and shoulders of the character or some important part of a subject in close detail. The extreme close-up ECU, XCU, which brings to immediate view a small objector, some portion of a face or object. Shots that are defined by the angle of the camera to the subject have the following designations. The eye-level shot, which is the standard against which the other shots in this category are measured. The low-angle shot, which views the character or characters from below, making them seem taller and more imposing. The extreme low-angle shot, which makes even stronger and more imposing and buildings seem towering and threatening. The high-angle shot, which looks down at characters, diminishing them and making them seem somewhat vulnerable. The extreme high-angle shot, which dwarfs them even more and makes them seem insignificant. The aerial shot, when the camera is photographing from some moving aircraft, creating a wide sweeping panoramic shot of the terrain. The oblique angle shot, when the camera is leaning left or right, creating a disconcerting sense of imbalance. The Dutch angle shot, when the camera is tilted both horizontally and vertically, creating a disorienting, subjective, or hallucinatory effect. Moving shots have the following designation. The tracking, traveling, or tracking shot, when the camera and its support move along the ground. Following action or tracking shot, when the camera and its support move along the ground, following action or taking us to some particular place. The dolly shot, which designates specifically that the camera is being moved by a dolly to achieve the previously mentioned effects. The crane shot, when camera and support are moved by a crane for both horizontal and vertical movement and to approach and withdraw from the subject in a more sweeping and dramatic manner. The follow shot, which merely designates that the camera is following action. The handheld shot, when the operator holds the camera by hand, perhaps with the aid of a body brace, to follow action or bring us to some inner recess of the scene, often creating a more naturalistic and immediate sense of location and action. The pan shot, when the camera from a fixed point sweeps along the horizon, either tracing a particular action or giving a panoramic view of the location. The swish pan, when the camera from a fixed point suddenly turns right or left, blurring the intervening space and focusing us suddenly on some new point of action. The tilt shot, when the camera from a fixed point looks up or down, following perhaps the ascent or descent of a character or the perspective of a character. The following terms, which designate a number of shots of a miscellaneous variety. The bridging shot, which forms a transition between two shots or scenes separate in action or separated by time or space. The insert shot, which is an image of some detail photographed out of sequence but inserted into the scene during editing. The point of view shot, which presents some action or setting as viewed from the eyes of a particular character. The reaction shot, which shows a character's facial response to something that has just taken place on the screen. The over-the-shoulder shot, which shows some action or setting as viewed from the perspective of a character by photographing with part of the character's head and shoulder framing the scene. The reverse angle shot, which presents some action from the direction exactly opposite to that of the last shot. The zoom shot, which moves smoothly into or away from the subject, generally by means of a zoom lens. The stock shot, which simply means any shot of scenery or action previously photographed and stored and now used in the present film. Scene. In this video, we are going to see about scene, a unified action within the film's plot that normally takes place in a single location and in a single period of time. The plot itself is made up of a series of connected scenes. Sometimes a single scene may take place in more than one location, for example, when the single action of a chase moves us from place to place. A scene may be composed of a single shot or a series of shots showing the same action from various angles and distances. The number of shots will depend both on the length of the scene and the dramatic impact desired. The term is sometimes employed synonymously for shot. The physical setting or location of a particular action. Sequence. In this video, we are going to see about sequence, a series of related shots and scenes that form a single, coherent unit of dramatic action. Such units of action are frequently unified by a single general location and continuous chronology. Since both have complete independent actions with apparent beginnings, middles, and ends, and both normally conclude with some type of dramatic climax. A chase sequence in a western or adventure film is a good example of this type of dramatic structure that makes up a single component in the entire plot structure of the film. Perhaps one of the most brilliantly edited sequences in the history of cinema is Sergei Eisenstein's Odessa Steps sequence in the battleship Potemkin, 1925, where a series of related shots and scenes play off one another to create a rich visual montage that communicates to the viewer the horror and pathos of the massacre. Sequences need not have a single location, and sometimes the chronology might be ambiguous, so long as the effect is still one of dramatic unity. For example, cross-cutting between simultaneous scenes in two separate locations can create a sense of a single action. Sometimes a whole series of scenes at different locations can form a single sequence when they are brief and tightly cut together. Shooting script. The final written version of a film used by the director during shooting. This script, which includes instructions for the camera as well as dialogue and action, is broken down according to individual scenes, with shots numbered consecutively in chronological order from the start of the script. The shooting script is itself broken into the individual shooting schedules. It determines which shots and scenes are to be photographed on what specific day or days and in what order.